you are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound. We are live once again. I am your host, Josh Kimmel, a.k.a. Treasure Seeker. Always looking for it wherever it may be. You just never know what the next find's gonna be or what this hobby may have in store for you around the corner. That's one of the great things about it. The element of the unknown. But that's the way it goes. We're glad that you've all been able to tune in and join us here. We appreciate each and every one of the listeners, whether you're tuning in from your computer, your smartphone, or your tablet. Whichever way you may access the show, whether it's live or on the archives, we always appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, by all means, rate the channel. We always appreciate the support. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, it's painless, it's easy. And I'll let you in on a little something. You may even have fun with it. You just never know. Whether you're a metal detectorist or another form of treasure hunter, I'd love to hear from you. Always interested in good tips, techniques, guests, content, and information for the listeners, because after all, this is metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for you, the listener. Now, with that in mind, enough of me rambling on. We should probably get into other things. My guest tonight is a 38-year veteran in the hobby, a 38-year relic hunting veteran, whose forte seems to lie in Civil War relic hunting. And he, many of us may recognize the name of Cajun Coin Hunter from YouTube videos. The gentleman I have on here tonight is actually Cajun Coin Hunter's mentor in the hobby. And he goes by the name of Yoda, which you saw in the promos. No, I'm not speaking of the small Jedi Master from Star Wars. But this gentleman is wise in the ways of the coil. Make finds he does. Very enthusiastic about the hobby he is. And he has taken the time to sit down with us tonight, so hopefully we've got some good information in store for everybody. My guest tonight is Yoda from Louisiana, I do believe. How's it going, Yoda?
Yoda is doing fine in Louisiana, and you're right. And that was an awesome introduction.
Oh, well, thank you. It's great that you were able to take the time and sit down with us. I enjoy speaking with all people involved in the hobby, whether they're newcomers to the hobby or longtime veterans, and really get a kick out of what the longtime veterans bring to the table as far as their experiences in the hobby. Because one thing that we've seen, especially yourself over the years, there have been changes in machines, there have been changes in technology, but the fundamental basics have always remained the same. Be passionate about the hobby, be thorough when you're hunting, don't get discouraged, stay optimistic, and just get out there and find something. Enjoy the hobby.
Correct. You know, I have a living room with artifacts scattered about, but I never found an artifact in my living room.
Well then. Oh, excuse me. Still kind of getting over a little bit of a cold. Why don't you take a few moments and explain to us how it is that Yoda got his start in the hobby? I mean, who is Yoda? How did he get started? Was there, family members that had metal detected or something you'd always been interested in? Or did you just maybe wake up one day and say, hey, I want to do metal detecting? How did that all come about? What have you used?
Okay. Well, in my hometown, as a very young man, I'm talking 5 years old probably. I had my hometown has a small battlefield in its area, and that was common knowledge. And we would travel, by it, and it as a young boy, as a youth. You think military anyway. You like little toy soldiers and everything anyway. So,
oh, yeah.
It was always like, that's where the battle took place, right there. Well, as a 5-year-old, I could almost envision the battle. And then my dad takes me to the barber shop in town, and it's an old man, and, I don't know if your listeners, how many are our age, but the barber had to put a board across the chair for me to sit in, and so he could reach my head.
Right.
And on his shelf, next to his razor and shears, were a few mini balls, and he gave me one as a 5-year-old youth, and it fascinated me to the point that I still have that mini ball. It is, I guess, the seed of my career as a relic hunter. So for years, I had that vision of finding relics, and I bought a metal detector out of a comic book as a youth. It really never found a relic, but it was literally my first machine.
Well,
and,
do you happen to remember what that was?
It was a dart, $20.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Yep, a dart. It wasn't much to it. And it was forgettable, except that it was my first machine, and I will never forget that.
Right.
So,
yeah, everybody always remembers their start.
Yeah, it was, I never found an artifact, but I was very young, and then as a young teenager, I invested a little more money and bought a Fisher, and it was a transmitter receiver, not low frequency like all machines are today. It was a transmitter receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
the predecessor to the VLFs.
Correct. So I found a couple of coins with it, and my dad would take me places. We'd stop at an old church and run it through the yard, and I found a V-nickel, and that was all encouraging, but I still had the mini ball on my mind. So it wasn't until I was 18, and the man that I consider my mentor, who I visited with from bicycle age to mini bike age to scooter age till I was 18, I visited with him, and he had a metal detector, and he had a nice collection of artifacts, and all he would ever tell me, though, was that I found these not too far from here. But he never would tell me exactly where,
Right.
So,
many times hunters are more than willing to share tips and techniques, but sometimes not so willing to share sites.
That's exactly right. And I caught him in his latter years, and one of my visits, he just said, "You know what? I'm going to tell you where I found this stuff." And he did. And I left his house and went straight out there and found my first mini ball literally with my machine that day. And I was on fire ever since.
Right, it sounds like once you dug that first mini ball, you never looked back.
Nope, can't look back.
And you've, the way it sounds in talking to you over the phone and such, you're quite pleased with your career in the hobby, so to speak. You've made a number of nice finds for yourself, the way it sounds, and that's not to say that everybody's finds are the best or the biggest or anything like that, but you're very happy with what you've done as a person, which is the way it should be. You know, you're enjoying the hobby, you're pleased with what you're finding, and you're having fun with it.
It's a hobby, but if you relate it to business, some businessmen become millionaires and some make a living. You know, I've made a living in, so to speak, with my hobby, with the way I conduct myself with the hobby. I never found the $1 million treasure chest, but I've been very satisfied with my degree of finds and truly with the knowledge that has come with it. You know, I've researched everything, which, for the listener's sake, research is very high on the list. You can have the best machine in the world, and without proper research, you know, it's a lottery ticket without proper research.
Right. And that's also to say, too, that you have to understand your machine and become accustomed to it. And it's not something that can be done overnight. It does take time in the field and everything. As a matter of fact, you related before the show that over the years, I'm sure you've used many different machines, and maybe you can name some of those off. But most recently, you had switched from I believe it was a Fisher 1265 to the Fisher F70, and you had made this transition only just a few years ago, but you had ran that 1265 since the mid-'80s?
That is correct. The 1265, and in my opinion, it's one of the best machines ever made. Dependable, rugged, and you know, it just never failed me. It has duct tape on it still, some broken pieces here and there, but as far as finding relics, it did not fail me. Yes, I had, during the course of my years, I've used, started with the TR Fisher, went to the low frequency Fisher, went through Garrett, Bounty Hunter. I still presently do have a Tesoro that I use frequently. Let's see, what other, well, I did have, man, your listeners may not even know that there was the Double Eagle. That was quite a few years back. It was a homemade machine, but it was a really good machine. But anyway, I've been through numerous machines and numerous companies, and it's all a matter of adapting, honestly. You know, my adapting to the F70 is more, and I appreciate the technology, I really do, but it was more a transition for, like, my age and the wear and tear on my body, because, like, the 1265 is a relatively heavy machine, and it limited my hunting time. The F70 doubled my hunting time, and I definitely did not lose sensitivity. It's just a matter of getting accustomed to a new piece of equipment in my hands.
Right, tweaking the settings and knowing what that machine's saying to you.
I'm still working on it.
I see. Which, that was another thing I was going to ask. Sometimes with the people that have been in the hobby for a number of years like that, much like yourself, with the advancements in technology, sometimes they're not so inclined to receive it openly. Did you find that difficult to make that transition to the newer equipment? Did the technology, did it seem like a benefit or a hindrance to you?
Well, I was talked into the new technology by Cajun Coin Hunter. Really, I will give him credit for that. I will give him credit for that. But it was not because of the lack of ability of the older machine, but it is true. I mean, you wouldn't want to be driving a Studebaker today. You want to drive a vehicle that's got air conditioning and some of the perks that they have today. So technology-wise, they're good things. I do think we may lean on it a little too heavy sometimes.
Right.
The 1265 was strictly a tone machine and made me appreciate a whole lot, of, I mean, I never saw a number until 2 years ago. I didn't know what that was. So, what the BBIs or whatever, I did not begin learning that system until 2 years ago. But I'm coming along with it, and like I said, I appreciate the technology and the advancements in the industry. But my comment would be to the listener, don't underestimate the machine in your hand. It has ability, and your research and your practice and your knowledge with it will increase, I promise, your ability to find options.
Right. It's just staying determined and spending that time with the machine and the time out in the field.
Correct.
Now, over the years, I've noted, especially with the longtime hunters, they seem to be very keen on the tone hunting, much like you said with the 1265. Did the whole deal with the screen kind of throw you off, or did you still maintain that, I don't know, for lack of a better term, the loyalty to the tone hunting rather than putting too much faith in the numbers?
There are, I think as I get accustomed to the machine, I don't think I'll ever have a 100% loyalty to the computer telling me what's underneath that coil. But I will say that, the machine does amaze me at times because it is relatively accurate. Right. But I don't, I would never say that you should depend 100% upon that. For one thing, if you hunt enough, there's going to be an instinct that you have. And if you follow your instinct, there's Yoda speaking. If you follow that instinct, it'll prove you, a benefit.
Right. Sometimes you've just got to go with your gut. And,
exactly.
It does pay off. Now, the way it sounds, your hunting keeps you mainly in farm fields, correct?
The vast majority of the time, I am in agricultural areas that are under cultivation, and it helps and it hurts. The help is constantly turning over the soil. You just never know, something may surface that was not reachable last year.
Oh yeah, because the ground gets turned up and shifted around.
Right. The hindrance is you find artifacts with cuts and nicks and scrapes, and that's a hindrance. But I mean, it's still an artifact that is being uncovered that was had not seen the light of day for 150 plus years. So,
right, and that's got to be, that there is one of the best parts of the hobby, is when you're able to recover this relic, this piece of history that is laid in the ground for 150 years, or maybe even longer in some cases. You're the first person to touch that item and see it since the last person lost it all that time ago. It's almost kind of a humbling feeling in a sense, especially when you realize the history that's connected with it, especially in the aspect of the Civil War finds.
Well, totally. Because I know that, like the relic hunters from my generation, I'll call it. Yes, man, are we hungry for relics? Yes. Do we have the passion? Yes. But every one of the relic hunters that I have hunted with over the years, realize that we're walking over hallowed ground, that, blood was shed, and we don't lose respect for that. It is actually out of that respect that we want to find these artifacts and tell their story.
Exactly why we strive to recover these pieces of history and preserve them.
Right. And
that's a very good way of putting it, is that when you've done that research like that and you walk out onto that field, you walk out there with the realization of knowing what happened all those years ago, and it really does put things into a bit of a different perspective.
Well, could I share about a 60-second story with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. This little battlefield near my hometown, when I was very young, now the story relates to someone else finding a fantastic artifact, but the story is, it was actually a relative of mine that was bicycle riding during the construction of a highway that ran pretty much right through the battlefield at the time, and we're talking about the mid-1960s, and he was riding his bicycle through this road construction, and he just luckily found a U.S. box plate.
Wow.
And, so, of course, he knows that I love this stuff, and every time I go to my relative's home, I look at it. And as the years go by, and I start getting more and more into it, and I start researching these things, I went and looked at it again. I looked at the box plate when I started finding relics, and on the backside is the initials FH scratched into the back of the box plate. FH. Well, in my research of this battle, there's a captain's report. The captain's name was Sylvester Hill, and I'm not sure if he's Ohio or Indiana. I'm not sure. I'll have to research. I'll have to check that. But anyway, he was a Union officer, a Union captain, and in his report, he reports that his regiment charged and fought hard, and that his son, Fred Hill, was shot and killed on the battlefield, and and died there at this battle site.
Wow.
Well, I'm sorry, but I can't say that FH is Fred Hill, but I know it was.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's an awful lot of coincidence, and I suppose there's a possibility that it may not have been him, but what are the odds that it was not him?
I knew from years of my research, and like I said, I didn't know this in 1965, but by 1985, I had done enough research to know that where he found that box plate was traditionally the hospital site. I mean, from from word of mouth and from various reports, it appeared to be the hospital site. So that's just a little tidbit right there, just a little tidbit.
Now, did he realize what he had found? Because that's a phenomenal find to just, be walking, riding along and spot laying there. Did he realize what he had found?
He knew that it was special, and my knowledge as the years went by actually kind of helped him to appreciate it too, because I did let him know, of the information that I had discovered, and so yeah, I mean, he knew he had something special as a child, as a kid riding a bike, but probably even more today. Yeah, he does.
And with that discovery like that and knowing the information behind it, you would think that makes that find even more special now to him today.
I revere it, and it's not mine. It's not mine, but I revere it. So yes, I know that he does really appreciate it, and those are the kinds of things that really, again, I'm just telling you that people that long ago and that situation with the war between the states, the war of the rebellion, there was bloodshed, and we don't want to forget that did happen out of respect,
Absolutely. That's a very good way to put it, too. Now, you have made quite a number of finds yourself as well. What have some of these finds been that you've made? Are there any particular ones that really kind of jump to the front of your mind, so to speak?
Well, I've been very fortunate in the hobby. I have, as far as I have a very well-rounded collection. When I started and found the first mini ball, and then I hunted a matter of weeks on this battlefield, and I dug mini balls, and I was digging fragments, and I mean, I was so new to this that I was digging everything literally. I was digging with an oyster knife. An oyster knife. That's what I was using to dig my artifacts with, because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I dug a projectile, with an oyster knife. And, if I were to, say, move all of my collection away and, say, end up with one piece, it would be that first projectile that I found. I really feel like it's the most special thing I have, because it was the first, and I got into the projectiles very heavily in my when I first started the artifact, when I started finding the artifacts, because I was lucky at it. I was fortunate at it. I dug a lot of projectiles, and the Civil War people that are listening will know the name of Tom Dickey, the Atlanta collector who, he's authored many books, and I met him numerous times. He has been to my home. I've been to his home. He's passed away now, but he was an influence in my life. We have, we corresponded, and it was because I found some really nice projectiles, of course, but he was one of those good Southern gentlemen too, and we got along well like that. But I was very fortunate with projectiles, and I found some extremely rare projectiles over the course of time. Then, you start sharing experiences with people and with other relic hunters, and then, you start sharing sites, and I started finding some different things because people were bringing me places. So I really started finding some really nice Confederate buttons, and And, one of the favorite finds I have was a T. Miller Confederate cavalry button. It's super rare button with the T. Miller back mark. Awesome find. My dad was there. I turned my dad into a relic hunter, which is another story. My dad, and he's also passed away now, but he used to ride with me to go relic hunt, and he would like dig trees while I was digging relics. He would dig trees up and to plant in his yard. And finally I said, Dad, if you just take my spare machine and hunt while you're digging your trees, I mean, you might find something. Well, he became quite a relic hunter of his own and found really many great artifacts. And I miss my dad. And we used this hobby to grow really close together. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful between Dad and I. And so I got into the Confederate buttons quite a bit, and I was very fortunate to find some really nice ones. But honestly, it's the general collection that, the overall. I have a wonderful mini ball collection with probably 150 varieties of mini balls in it that I've actually found or acquired and traded for or whatever. So I have a really nice mini ball collection. But it's just the overall general collecting, I think, that really has satisfied me.
Right, and being able to preserve these pieces and even show them to others. I imagine with yourself having grandkids, it's probably not all that uncommon for them to say, hey, Grandpa, what's that? And you kind of get to teach them a little something as well about history.
True, absolutely, and all the guests into my home, they are quickly attracted to the artifacts, and I can spend some time with them. I do.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it makes for a very nice conversation piece. Any of the displayed artifacts like that.
That's exactly correct.
Well, I'm going to open the phone lines here. That way, if we do have anyone with questions or comments for you, they can get through to you before we run out of time. The call-in number is 419-549-5744. That's 419-549-5744. Now, with you doing primarily agricultural areas, do you use pinpointers much, or do you just kind of kick the dirt out of the hole and scan the pile?
Well, a pinpointer is one of those technological advances that I'm still learning to use. It has taken me a little time to get used to having that pinpointer on my side. And again, I'll give Cajun Coin Hunter a shout, because he keeps putting this technology in my hand,
right?
And he's making me come up to 2014,
getting you up to speed. We've got another long-time relic hunter on here with us that may have some comments for you. Go ahead, caller.
Hi there. Is this Yoda?
Yes,
Yoda
sir.
is on here with us. Yes.
This is RingFinder, Yoda. I hunted many times in Virginia at DIV and other places also. I got some a lot of questions. Some of the places, if guys are looking for information on different metal detectors, a good place to go to is treasurenet.com. They have all the metal detectors listed, and a lot of people put in a lot of information on that site. And of course, my treasurespot.com. There's a tools of the trade spot on there where I've listed many of the detectors that we use in Virginia and elsewhere. And I just heard Josh brought up about the pinpointer. I got a suggestion for you. I'm not sure if you were using a Garrett pinpointer, are you?
Yes, Garrett pinpointer is what I use.
Well, when you put it in the ground there in Virginia, or this might hold true anywhere where there's any mineralization in the ground, don't turn it on before you put it in the hole to look for the item. Put it in the hole and then turn it on, and it will ground balance to the soil.
Very good tip. Very good tip.
Yeah. I even do it here in Ohio, but you mentioned I hunt with a lot of machines, especially in Virginia, that they don't have any screens at all. And I normally hunt with, or look for any repeatable sounds, north, south, east, and west. And I like the high signals, but I like the grunts also. And do you have a GPX by any chance?
No, I don't.
Well, I run a GPX here in Virginia, and I've tried. If you've ever hunted in Culpeper soil, have you ever hunted down there?
No, I'm a deep south hunter. I can't see.
You're down.
Been in pretty much a 3-state area and not outside.
So you're in Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe Tennessee?
Correct.
Okay, because I hunt Tennessee with Tommy and Thomas Lynn. Do you know them?
I don't.
They're up close to Memphis.
Okay.
We also hunt in Mississippi, too, right across the line. And I have hunted around Corinth, and I did hunt south of Shiloh already. Not at the national park, but near there.
Right.
So I just thought I'd throw some of that in. I like a Nautilus up in your area, too. You ever try one of those?
Yes, but I'm from the old school Nautilus, which was a fantastic machine.
That's the one I have.
There. It was a fantastic machine. I had mentioned using the Double Eagle, and I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but at the time that Nautilus was the hottest machine around, the Double Eagle was challenging it, and that's what I went with. But that was a few years ago. I know Nautilus does have a good machine today. I know that they do.
Yeah, I still use the old Nautilus where you have to turn all the dials and the ground balance it, and I actually use it here in Ohio where I live. And it's pretty cool because, well, I usually lift up my left headset whenever I'm hunting for some stupid reason. So I just turn the headset around because everything that hits on the right side, if you wear that, the whole headset, anything that hits on the right side is supposedly bad, and anything that hits on the left side is good. So I just take the headset and turn it around. So the left side is always on my ear, and anything that hits on that side, I'm digging. So
there you go.
Well, yeah, it's really a neat machine. Tommy Lynn talked me into buying one, and I didn't use it for a long time. My old Mind Lab 70 bit the dust, and I had to send it in while I was in getting worked on. I broke out my Nautilus, and I've been really happy with it. It's a good little machine.
And I've heard the Relic hunters really like them Nautiluses. They're good at hitting them deep bullets.
Yeah. Down there where Yoda lives, you can do that. If you get up into Culpeper, you might as well throw it in the junk pile. Dennis Cox is a big Nautilus hunter in Virginia and that area, and he's the craziest guy you ever saw in your life hunting with a metal detector. He can tell you with a Nautilus now, nothing else. He can tell you by the signal if it's a plate, if it's a 58 caliber bullet, if it's a 69, or if it's a nail. Wow. Good. Yeah, he's that good with that machine. And his machine, he's got it taped up with duct tape. He had to duct tape it together because it kept falling apart. and I think he might have a broom handle on it too. I mean, this thing is completely wore out, and he just hunts with this thing to death. I mean, it's crazy. So,
Well, you
I'm
can't
going to
beat
get
that.
off here. I'm sure you've got other callers calling in, but it's good to hear you. I'd love to come down and hunt with Cajun Hunters sometime. I've hunted with him in Virginia, and he is a lot of fun.
He is. He is. I have a lot of appreciation for him, and you know, my relic hunting had between business and family and life. My relic hunting had kind of taken a back seat, and he brought me back to life, so to speak. So I give him a lot of credit. I do.
I just remember one more thing. You talking about respecting where you hunt. If you go to Ringfinder 7 on the YouTube, you'll find my videos, and I always end with this saying, how we respect and save history, and that's the way I feel about it when I go to any Civil War area. So, and I always put that in the, I've kept everything I've ever found, so pretty soon the bullets are starting to sag my cabinet here.
Right, they will do it.
Yeah, I did actually start selling some bullets to sixth graders, because that's what they're studying in school. And just, you talk about when you show them something like that, and they're all is crazy. I mean, they just can't get over holding something that's 150 years old that maybe their grandfather, my great-grandfather, would have held.
Right, and it helps make the education process more entertaining as well for the child, I'm sure.
I know G.T. Digger. I know quite a few guys from Virginia that do talks. I think Dennis Atrick's another one. And when they do their talks to schools, they've got so many bullets that they pass them out to the schoolroom children. Now, I don't have that many bullets, but I've got a lot. Yeah. It's nice to live in an area where you could dig relics like that. Man, if I lived where you guys live and down south, I'd be out right now metal detecting in the dark.
Right. Anytime you can get out there and find them.
I hear you. Well, I'll let you go, Josh and Yoda. It was nice talking to you, and you really got a good show tonight, so I'll let somebody else call in. Nice talking to you.
Well, thanks for the call,
Nice talking to you,
Ringfinder.
too. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Well, that was, it's always good to hear from him. Interesting caller. He's got a lot of years in the hobby himself. Long time relic hunter. Really loves hunting down there in Virginia when he can get down there. I believe he missed the DIV hunt this year, but there were some other things that had come up that he had to deal with, and hopefully next year he'll be back. But we'll see how that goes. So, Cajun Coin Hunter had also turned you on to the pinpointers as well then, eh?
He's a relatively, new to the hobby. He only started about 3 to 4 years ago. So he came in the technological age compared to me. But he came to me and he remembered that when he was 12 years old, he had come to my home and seen my artifacts, and he came to me and wanted to talk to me about, relic hunting, and we knew each other from many years back. So,
wow. So that's cool.
We matched up pretty good.
That's cool that it all kind of came full circle for him, so to speak. We've got another caller here. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I've never met this Yoda guy, but who's the best looking guy he's ever metal detected with? It's got to be that Kevin guy, right?
Oh, yeah, that KS Hollywood. You got to watch him.
Yeah, exactly.
How's it going, Yoda? Look, I was telling Josh when I was talking to him about you, I said we went metal detecting. We've been working hard. We hadn't found a whole lot. We decided to take a break, go get a little snack. So we go into the gas station there in Louisiana, and, we're getting like honey buns and hamburgers and stuff, and we go back out to the vehicle, and Yoda comes and sits in my truck, and he ordered something from in the back of the store, and he pops it open, and he got, as a snack, boudin. And I thought that was hilarious because we're all getting snacks, and he's getting boudin, and he's just over there tearing that boudin up.
No,
we talked for about 15 minutes about boudin.
For some of the listeners, why don't you go ahead and explain what that is in case they don't know?
There's no way to explain boudin on the radio. Well, I thought we were talking relics, man. We're not talking boudin.
But the people that know, they might not know what boudin is, but once you tell them what it is, they might
I know they don't know what boudin is. I know they don't know.
Maybe we'll have to tell them to Google that after the show.
Okay. All right, Google boudin, and you will get an explanation of what boudin is. boudin.
Well, that sounds good enough. That ought to explain it.
I got one quick story, and I get off here. I was talking to Yoda one day, and he's like, "Man, there's a spot in Natchez I want to go to. If you ever go," he said, "just tell everybody else to stay home and take me." And I was like, "Okay." And he told me what it was, and I said, I had permission to hunt that spot. And he goes, "You do?" And I said, "Yeah, I've never been." And so I called him up, and we went there, and as we were talking, he was telling everybody, all you got to do is just find one button here, and it just makes the whole trip worthwhile. First 10 minutes, he found a button.
Wow.
And I didn't. So I didn't. I threatened to never take him anywhere again. But and it was just weird that he was saying that a button, from the Revolutionary War would be a great find, and that would make your trip. And 10 minutes, he starts digging a plug, and he pops up a button. What button was that, Yoda?
That was an 1805 5th Infantry Pewter with a chain. It was very nice.
Wow, nice find.
So yeah, I was a little jealous.
Well, in your defense, Hollywood, you picked the wrong machine that day.
Well, guess what? Next time we go, Josh, I'm gonna tape a pull tab up under his coil, so he's not gonna. I'm gonna keep him busy for a while.
There you go. Toss a few pennies out or something.
All right, I'm gonna go let somebody else call in. But great show again, and I'll talk to you in a little while, Yoda.
All right. Thanks for the call, Kevin.
Thank you, friend.
Well, go ahead.
He's a great guy.
Yes, he does have a certain passion for the hobby, and he's made some nice finds himself and stuff. He's going through a little bit of a tough patch right now, and our condolences out to him. His mother had recently passed, but he's a great guy. We've got another caller here, another passionate hunter that's into relics. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, let's be sure that I use my discrimination when I'm hunting Kevin.
Yeah, I guess he shouldn't have mentioned that. You'll be on the lookout for him now.
I will. Yoda, it's a pleasure listening to you. I've watched your videos many times. This is Kenny Moore, Dirt Bandit 33. I've watched you and Casey Corn Hunter many a times, even as Mr. Digging Deep South and Mr. Hollywood there. Couple of questions for you. One statement and one question is, my pinpointer used to be a sifter, just so, but it was curious. I never asked Kevin this, but when Hurricane Katrina came up through there, did you guys ever get into the creek systems of the little rivers there after the water's gone down, after the rains moved out, just to see what was what was in the water system?
Very good question.
Well, unlike it was not torrential. I mean, it was flooding, but it was not the type of flooding that would wash a creek out, unfortunately. You know, just a good spring 3-inch rain will do that for you, but the Katrina, you know, it really did not do that for the area. It really did not. A few let's see, 2 years later, we had another storm come through that had a lot of rain involved and actually knocked over a lot of trees and you know, that opened up a little bit of hunting area. But related to Katrina, that was just a different type of water. It was ugly, but it didn't help our relic hunting, no.
Well, because up here, I'm north of you, and I'm up here in Mississippi, and when we had, there's a place or two that I go when we get heavy rains, and it's remarkable because I'll go into this water system, you know, and I'll find, you know, some mini balls, a button, and you know, then pretty much that's it. Then we'll get another storm come through, and I'll go in there and do the same. So it does wash you. I don't know if it necessarily, I'm sure it brings it out of the banks on each side, but it probably also brings it from, at least where I'm at, the top of the high point of the terrain. That's probably where a lot of it's coming from. So you head that direction. But
well,
I do a lot of stuff up there.
And there's just no high point of terrain, you know, in South Louisiana. It's really, it's different. But I know what you are talking about, and like when I hunt Port Hudson, and over the years of hunting Port Hudson, which is hilly and sandy, and I've seen creeks literally change course, and just, you know, you're right, amazingly, it just eats away, it builds, you know, a bank another direction and eats away a different direction and reveals relics. So, yeah, I do understand where you're coming from on that. It's just Katrina was not the one.
Right. Well, I used it for an example because I know it in some areas it came up through there and dropped total rain. But I believe that was Rita that came up after Katrina that dropped all of the rain. But
right.
Yeah, I'll get off here right now. I'm hunting on the cliffs of the Tennessee River. You know, finding some frags and shells and stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. And but it's been good listening to you, and it's a great show once again, Josh. And I'll get off here, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Kenny. Always great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, with you digging in the fields and stuff now, is there any particular digging gear of choice for you? Have you switched from your oyster knife to something maybe a little more practical?
I did graduate. I'm all the way up to a spade, a ditch digging spade, and it's been my tool of choice. Kind of helps balance me with the machine in one hand and the spade in the other, and you can kind of reach underneath the target without damaging. It's kind of become a part of my body now, so I use a spade.
Okay. Well, then I guess with your time in the hobby, and with credit to Cajun Coin Hunter, welcome to the modern times, sir.
Exactly.
It's great to see you've made it. You've definitely made some nice finds, and it sounds like you have, in fact, enjoyed the hobby and will continue to for many years to come. I
look forward to, doing this until I just cannot anymore. I had mentioned my dad hunting earlier with me, and Dad was hunting relatively hard into his early 70s, so I hope to do the same.
Absolutely. It sounds like a great way to continue to enjoy the hobby. Before we go, are there any finds that you necessarily haven't made yet? Like a couple of items from the wish list that you would like to find before you are no longer able to enjoy the hobby?
You know, I've never thought of it that way, honestly.
Okay.
Every find is a pleasure and a joy and a treat. So I really can say that, you know, I've found a nice round collection of artifacts, and no, I don't have a bucket list of hopefuls, but I think I'll just treat everything I ever find very specially.
Very good way to put it. So it's not necessarily a bucket list of items as much as it is getting out there and continuing to recover the history no matter what it is.
That's correct. That is correct.
All right. Any words of wisdom from Yoda for new-coming hunters into the hobby?
Certainly do not think that you're going to find anything from under your home roof. You really have to hunt to find. The people that hunt, find.
Exactly. If you're not out there looking, you're not out there finding.
I told Cajun Coin Hunter that, like our first visit. I said, if you hunt, you will find. And that is the key. Research and actually just word of mouth, talking to people. You know, you pose a question to, you never know where you might get a little information from. So research is my second most important thing. First of all, hunt. Second of all, you know, research for your hunt.
Absolutely. Sounds like good words of wisdom and truism. Definitely agree there. Any YouTube channel, anything like that you would like to plug?
Cajun Coin Hunter is my main guy, and of course, Digging Deep South is right there with us, and we all enjoy our hunts together. So if you're a YouTube viewer, Cajun Coin Hunter and I are about to crank up our next season of hunts. We've been talking about it, so that's coming shortly. Just keep us in mind.
Awesome. So be sure and check out their channels, subscribe, even set it to notify you of updates or uploads, and you'll be able to catch those as they become available then, folks. Other than that, while you're on there, hey, feel free to check out Ohio Metal Detecting. I've got some videos up there myself. Really, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Definitely very passionate about the hobby. For those listening, if they've enjoyed the show, by all means, feel free to like and rate the channel. Drop me a line if you'd like to be a guest or have someone that you would like to hear, or even an interesting topic that you may like to hear about. And really, it's not about public speaking. Don't be afraid to drop me a line. It's just a couple of guys talking shop. It's painless, and you may even have fun with it. For the members of the Beyond Sight and Sound group, the Chicago Ron's Jolie fundraiser is still pinned, still being updated. Lots of donations have been made, some very nice ones. Be sure and keep track of those updates, and it's great to see the amount of support that's coming out for this. And it's for a good cause. It really is, and we support him 100% in this, and we wish nothing but the best for Jolie in this trying time. For everyone else, we're pretty much at the end of our rope. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like, rate the channel if you enjoyed, and you can always check us out next week. You just never know what's going to happen next. But for tonight, that was the truisms and experiences of Yoda himself, wise in the ways of the coil and mentoring people. It's great to talk to him. Good guest to hear. And hopefully next week we'll have as much fun. Until then, stay persistent, stay determined, and get out there and try to find something no matter where it may be. We'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for listening.